Welcome to the Poachers Pickleball podcast. We are chatting about wooden paddles, pickleball in Asia, betting, Twitter controversies, you name it. We're talking about it this week. Welcome back. Here we go. Spencer, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Always the Twitter controversies though on this show.
Always, always.
Always in pickleball for some reason.
It never stops. This one, luckily, we're going to talk more in the generalities of. It's more of this is a topic in sports that never seems to go away. So I'm excited to get your opinion. The great thing about Spencer is he is super busy, loves all kinds of sports, has way more knowledge, will beat anybody in trivia. Way too busy though to actually watch pickleball. So I just explain nonsense to
Most of
him,
the time, yes.
and then we get him. But luckily, when you're done with school, then maybe you'll have some more time here. But you really, truly have no idea how busy Spencer is. He goes to school full time, new dad, works full
It's
time,
crazy.
and he commentates on ESPN Plus for soccer games, both the men and women, out of Utah Tech. So if you want to see him on ESPN
Yeah.
Plus, check that out. Anyway, so busy guy. We appreciate you having you on here. So tell us a little bit about the Sacramento Vintage Open, Spencer.
Yeah, so this one's an interesting one, a kind of an interesting format. All players had to use wooden paddles. So I guess celebrating 60 years of pickleball history, which to be quite honest, I didn't know there was 60 years of pickleball history. I thought there was about 10. But this throwback equipment meant there was really no spin on the ball, there was less power, and a lot of mishits. Just people aren't used to playing with wooden paddles anymore.
Yeah, I mean nobody does, nobody would. Anybody that really plays pickleball is that I know is almost chasing the perfect paddle. There's every week there's something new. They're basically what people call paddle nerds, which I might be one of those. My wife thinks I buy way too many paddles, which is probably true. Anyway, using wooden paddles, it's interesting. I was looking on Twitter before this tournament came up, and some people were pretty excited for the novelty, and there were some people that were totally against it. I was initially on the novelty side, I think, or maybe not a novelty. I thought it was going to be cool, and then I watched it, and it wasn't great. It wasn't.
And
It
you're like, ah,
wasn't.
never mind.
It wasn't horrible, but I never want to see it again. Does that make sense? I'm not
Yeah,
dismissing.
that makes
I don't
sense.
know. Does that make sense? Like I thought it was cool and it was a good idea, but I don't want to do this once a year. Connor Pardo put out a tweet where you can vote, and they said like, do you want to do this as an exhibition? Do it again next year? And I said never again. That was my vote. Now, again, I didn't
I
hate
mean,
it, but go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say they celebrated 60 years of pickleball history, right? With this idea of the wooden tournament. So just do it again in like 10 years.
There you go, 70
Make it like a
years.
once a decade
Now
thing.
that I can handle. That I can handle. I hope that's the case. I mean, think about it. Could you imagine like if we went to like back to peach baskets and every time LeBron scores, somebody has to climb up on a ladder to get the ball out of the basket, right? Like
That'd
or
be
in
weird.
football, what would you do in football? With leather helmets, right? I mean,
Yeah, it wouldn't no.
I'm a
Like
big technology guy. Go ahead. What were you say?
no, and it just I'm watching like baseball playoffs today too, and like of course like the ball has evolved over time, the mitt has evolved over time, but like yeah, go back to like what no batting helmets and the ball's all plush, like that was just the
Or
dead ball
like
era. Like
yeah,
I'm good.
the golf ball that's made of like pigeon feathers and like a wooden stick for your, or actual wood
Yeah.
for your woods. I don't know. I'm more pro technology. I There are a lot of complaints that the paddles are getting too powerful, so I get it. While you chase technology, you can change the game too much. But I think if you have some limits in there, I think you're good. And anyway, that's my opinion. So with that said, there was, and the theory was a lot of people that were kind of the old style players or players that had been around for a long time who used to play with kind of older equipment or are used to that style with they don't have as much spin and power. Those are the people that would do well in this tournament. Now, let me explain this. There was a competing tournament, the PPA Asia, and a lot of really top tier talent went there. So like Ben Johns, Christian Alashon, Caitlin Christian, uh, Zoe Wang. Anyway, a bunch of people went over there and played in the PPA Asia tournament in Malaysia, and that was cool. But it also like so. In other words, this was a very thin field. There was not as many as you'd normally see. So in other words, the best aren't necessarily there, and this it's just a smaller draw. So anyway, With that said,
Sorry, here's a question.
yeah, go
No,
ahead.
I came up with a question while you were just saying that. Was that purposeful? Were like the big name players like, screw that. I'm not playing with wood. Like, was that
I don't,
intentional?
I don't know. That's a good question. I got the feeling that even if people didn't go to Asia to play, they took this tour off. So the way it works is right now you're contractually obligated to have us to play in a certain number of tournaments if you're signed with the UPA.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually don't know if the Asia tournaments count, but I got the sense that people didn't want to play with the wooden paddles anyway. They're heavier, they're smaller in size, but they are heavier. So like Jessie Irvin was wearing this giant thing on her forearm to protect it because it's just the paddle's just so much heavier.
Hmm.
So I don't know the answer, but I got the sense that there were people that didn't really want to play in the wooden paddle tournament. I think people were kind of like towing the line, like, "Oh, this is cool. This is kind of fun, unique, excited to play it." But I think there was some people that are just like, "I'm taking the week off. Like this is not
Yeah.
nothing against Sacramento, the city, right? But just like I don't want to play with wooden paddles." Because I think it really could, if you have like golfer's elbow or something like that, that might be rough. Playing with a heavier
Yeah.
paddle with more and the reverberations hitting. Anyway, with that said, it the well, let me tell you this too. I don't think judging from like the viewing or like seeing who was actually there, it didn't seem like they had a huge audience there. So I wonder if it actually hurt the people actually coming and paying for ticket to go see this. Because honestly, now
Mm.
if it was in my hometown, I would go, but I wouldn't go out of my way to go to this if it was a wooden tournament. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
live in
That
St.
makes
George,
sense.
you're close to Vegas. If anything's in St. George, I'm always there, right? Because I just
Yeah.
it's so close. But if it was a wooden tournament, I don't know if I would travel to see it for what I mean. But
Yeah.
anyway, what
Plus with the absence of the big names too, that
right, exactly.
obviously hurts it.
Exactly. So with that said, J.W. Johnson, he got double gold. He won men's doubles with Dylan Frazier and his obviously his sister Georgia Johnson. They so in other words, they got both. JW got gold in two different golds, and then let's see, I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, let me just give you the one on the singles. So Fed Saxtrud took first place in the singles. Kate Fahey took first place in singles as well. Jeannie Bouchard, who is a more of a tennis player, finally made it to a medal round for her first final in like almost 2 years as a pro. She has recently
Oh wow.
quit tennis altogether. She recently played her last pro match in tennis and is now focused completely on it. So I think one of the things that was kind of interesting is they expected tennis players to struggle, but I think they actually did well because what's different about the pickleball paddles now, and I'm not trying to get too into this, but basically you have to have fast hands. You're dealing with a heavier paddle, so you probably can't react as quickly, but you can probably just get to the ball because you're used to like hitting ground strokes from afar. So you might anyway. That was the theory.
Yeah.
The other thing that was interesting was Etta Tuianotoa and Elise Schneemann took women's gold in doubles, which was a big deal. Like this was, and they are kind of at least Etta's an older player, so that was not a big surprise. Um, Dylan Frazier coming back and winning with J.W. Johnson was a big deal. He also played in um, the mixed final as well. And then Leah Jansen took double bronze. So she did really well. She's been around forever. And we'll talk about her in a minute. And then Jessie Irvin, who has also been around forever, took silver and a bronze. So in other words, we were kind of right that like a lot of the older school players did well because they're not used to having to spin. That's more fundamental, but still not very fun. So trying to think if I missed
Hmm.
anybody here.
Yeah.
I'll just say the women's doubles also Jessie Irvin I mentioned. She played with Callie Smith, who's out of Utah as well, who's been around forever. So no surprise that the old school people made it to the finals there. And let's see here. So with that said, what was kind of cool, if you're a pickleball nerd like myself, you got to watch the Sacramento Open during the day, and then about 8 o'clock at night. I think it was about 8 o'clock at night. It would be morning in Malaysia, and you get to watch them play over there. So
Wow,
Did
you really watched it all, didn't you?
I actually watched probably more of the Asian Malaysian Cup than of the wooden paddle one. And
Huh.
maybe that's what soured me. Maybe if that was the only thing on, I wouldn't have minded the wooden paddle thing. But because like that basically ended, and then like an hour later you could turn it on and watch Ben Johns play with a normal paddle, you're like, oh, this is way better, right? So
Interesting.
tell us a little bit about the conditions though in Malaysia. You see that
Yeah,
right?
a lot of heat and a lot of humidity. I don't know. I guess the official ball was the Jula HC40, which is typically it's softer than like US standard, so that's kind of slowed play down. And then I guess I didn't see this, but I'll have to check it out. A delay occurred in the men's doubles final simply to towel off sweat from the court, so that's gross. But also I didn't realize Malaysia was that humid, to be honest.
Yeah, you could tell like they were literally changing. You could tell like the guys were changing shirts like in between every game for sure. Like they were just sweating up a storm. I mean, there's actually a picture I think the Dink had it where it just shows how much sweat was on the ground. And that's
Crazy.
pretty insane. So this wasn't it technically was indoor only because they basically kind of had a tent over the outdoor courts.
Oh,
So
so it's not indoor in air quotes.
yeah, yeah. So both you and I are in Utah. It's not humid at all here. And
No.
whenever I go somewhere where it's
Nope.
humid, and you probably, I don't know if you experience this, but it's different hot, right?
Oh,
Like
it's yeah, it's bad. Oh, I
for
just remember the first time I went to Florida, I thought I was gonna die.
well, and people what people don't understand is Spencer lives in southern Utah, and it is hot almost year
Hot
round there
and dry.
and dry, but it's not like humid conditions. So imagine just the physicality that it requires. So. Um, Anyway, but it was actually pretty fun to watch. Like I said, there's a lot of U.S. top talent there, and so Ben Johns, Christian Alshon, they teamed up together. Those guys are somewhat former rivals to some degree. Um, and then Ben Johns competed with Anna Bright. So instead of playing with Annalie Waters, didn't play anywhere this week. I think she was doing a sponsored thing with Paddle Tech or something in Asia, but not playing. Maybe like an exhibition or something. Caitlin Christian, those were kind of the big names that were there. Caitlin Christian, she basically dominated everything. She got 3 medals, so she got gold in singles and then bronze, I think, in mixed, and then I think she got gold in women's, but I'm not sure. Christian Alshon won men's singles, got a silver in doubles with Ben, which is crazy. That was not the way to announce the winner of men's doubles. Let me rewind here. The thing that was crazy was in the final, Christian Alshon and Ben Johns. So you're talking like a number one player and a number I don't know top five player Christian. They got beat by Tyson McGuffin and Eric Onsens in the final, and it was actually cool to
Upsets. I
watch.
like that.
Big upset. Now again, Christian hasn't played with Ben Johns before, really. I don't know if ever. Um, but the fact that Tyson McGuffin, who's a veteran, has been around forever, and honestly a bit older, right? Like people don't expect him to do so well, but that's not always true. But he's one of those guys where he's kind of older, like you're kind of surprised to see him in a final. Let's put it that way. So that was cool to see him. And then Ben Johns and Anna Bright took gold in in mixed doubles. So yeah, let's see. Um, I'll say this: the it was fun to watch, and if you do have Pickleball TV, I think it is on. There's a couple announcements that are probably worth talking about. If you have YouTube TV, which I do specifically for the NFL Sunday Ticket, um, Pickleball TV will be available as a normal channel there in the next coming months or so. So the
Ooh.
nice thing about that is, so this is the cheap host telling you guys some advice here. So and I wish we got paid for this. I do strongly recommend the Pickleball like app and paying, I think it's $60 a year, and you can watch all kinds of matches. Like they'll play like up to like 5 or 6 showcase matches. So they'll play up grandstand, um, center court, and then like 5 or 6 when there's enough games going on. And to me, it's worth it because partially because you can rewind and fast forward. So if you miss like a cool shot, you're like, oh shoot, I can rewind. Now, if you have regular Pickleball TV, which is available as kind of like a streaming channel on like Prime Video, you can go directly to Pickleball TV and just watch it. This sounds like a big promo. I don't mean for it to be, but The bad thing about Pickleball TV as a streaming channel, like let's say you're watching on Amazon Prime, you can't rewind it. So the fact that it's going to be on YouTube TV is a big deal because you essentially have DVR included in it. So if you have, so that's just a tip. If you have YouTube TV, Pickleball channels coming there, and you'll basically be able to rewind. Now, again, you're only going to see the whatever Pickleball TV shows you, which is typically the center court. That's why I recommend the app if you're a pickleball nerd like me, because then you can watch whatever match you want to watch. So, make
Question
sense?
on that. Yeah, question though that you may or may not know. I don't know.
Yeah.
YouTube TV, are they going to make that like a part of a regular package? Are you going to have, is that like a sports add-on thing or?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know the answer to that. I can't imagine that they will put that in an add-on package because
I would think not,
if
but you never
if
know.
the I mean, think about what you pay for like Disney Plus or Netflix, right? Like 15, $20 a month.
Too much.
Yeah,
It
way too
goes up
much for
every month,
sure.
it seems like.
Yeah, but with that said, you're only paying $60 a year for Pickleball TV. I can't imagine that they're stuffing that into a sports package. If they are, that's then forget everything I just said because it's probably not worth your time. I just get the app. Anyway, okay, with that said, um, there's a couple things. Let's just go over again. What happened in Asia was cool. It was good to see the Asian players against the top US players, and there were some upsets for sure, but essentially all the US players won all the medals, essentially, right? So, anyway, yeah, Caitlin Christian took first in women's singles, men's singles Christian Alshon, mixed doubles was Anna Bright and Ben Johns. No surprise, but they did play Caitlin Christian and Christian Alshon. Yeah, that's quite the mouthful, Christian Christian. Uh, so it was basically like a U.S. Actually, that's not true. In women's doubles, probably one of the coolest stories was some Australian players, Nicola Showman and Danny Townsend. They're actually really fun to watch. Um, if you have and actually, I would recommend this. They're the next PPA Asia event is the MP Vietnam Cup, and that starts technically today, but it's
Or
just
yeah,
qualifiers.
today.
But it's just qualifiers, so it isn't really going to be on TV till tomorrow night. So anyway, I would recommend that and keep your eyes on Nicola Showman and Danny Townsend. They are really fun to watch. Danny's super entertaining. She's getting the crowd hyped. She's just really fun to watch. So those two, I'd definitely keep your eyes on for women's doubles. That was, I think the only non-American team to be in a gold medal match. So, but Zoe Wang and Caitlin Christian took first. Um, but the thing that is interesting is Danny and Nicola, they beat Anna Bright, and I can't remember who Anna Bright was teamed with, but that was a big surprise to beat Anna Bright, who's the number two player in women's. Like Anna Bright could play with me and probably beat most, teams. Like if I was on her team, she's that good. So anyway, the fact that that Australian team won was a big deal. And then again, Tyson McGuffin and Eric Onsens, that was a huge, huge victory. I think it's the very first time McGuffin has ever beat Ben Johns. I'm not 100% sure, but that's my understanding. So anyway, a lot of those same players will be playing in Vietnam. I know Anna Bright's coming back, but there's like Tyson McGuffin and Eric Onsens are going to defend their medal in this week in Vietnam. Ben Johns is still going to be there, but I don't think he's paired with Christian Alshon. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, it's definitely worth watching. And the nice thing is, if you have a day job and you can't watch during the day, which is a lot of times when pickleball's on, unless it's the weekend, this is on at night. Now, you might stay up like me a little bit too late on, Saturday night watching
Every night.
watching pickleball every night. Anyway, but yeah, that's so check that out as well. So we got a couple updates. And this way, I don't know if you guys notice, I kind of purposely keep Spencer in the dark with some of my questions because I want to just get his take from like a fresh perspective. So first thing is, actually, I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to the paddles since I just teased it a little bit. So Adidas has a new set of paddles out. So to give you some history, their paddles have been like the laughing stock of pickleball for a long time. Um, Pretty much
Interesting.
no pros were sponsored by them for a long, long time. They had an interesting. You may not know much about this, but people put like lead tape and tungsten tape on their paddles to give it more weight in certain spots. And Adidas built it in with some metal screws, and they called it the metal bone. And it just sounded
Hmm.
weird. It didn't play good. It was like almost like the laughing stock of paddles. Now, Adidas is a huge brand.
Interesting.
Adidas is a huge brand, right?
Yeah.
So recently, earlier in the year, they signed Federico Stockstrud, who was at the time the number one player in singles and probably number two or three in doubles for a long time. They signed him to a deal, but it was kind of one of those things where almost like a Tiger Woods signing, where if he didn't like the putter, he could switch it from Nike or whatever it was, if you remember that. Because he went back to his Eula paddle, and because he just got murdered in his his first few tournaments with that Adidas paddle, and they were working on like a signature paddle. So I think it was kind of like a prototype, and but he was wearing all Nike clothes, or sorry, all Adidas clothes. And eventually he just went back to Eula, and then they basically just parted ways and said, "Okay, look, this was a he didn't feel like Fed didn't feel like he could win with his Adidas paddle, even though they were working on specific prototypes for him." And ultimately, Adidas has a lot of money. They ended up signing Jaume Martinez Vic, and I saw him playing with the Adidas paddle here in Salt Lake, and it was kind of a surprise. But to be honest with you, Federico and Jaume Martinez Vic have an international appeal, right? So I wonder if that's why Adidas signed them. But the news this week is that CJ Klinger, who is born and bred Ohio man, couldn't look more American, right? He signed with them, signed with Adidas, and he has been a big Proton guy. So with that said, and Proton kind of came in and made a big splash. They actually, I would say that by far Eula is the biggest. Most everybody plays with a Eula that's either signed by Eula or not. If you're unsigned, you almost always play with that. But the Proton has been kind of, I would say, considered second place. It's the paddle that I like the best right now. Anyway, Adidas just announced that they have a new paddle. They've signed CJ Klinger. What do you think about a big brand like that getting to the market, kind of stumbling at first, and then kind of continuing to pour some money in new paddles, new signees? What do you think about a big brand like that?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. I mean, yeah, Adidas is one of the biggest names in the space up there with like Nike and Under Armour, but I don't know. I feel like if you're not getting a company that's maybe really like singled in on pickleball or, for any other sport, singled in on a certain sport, I just maybe their resources are spread a little too thin. So I don't know if I like love that. I mean, kudos to them for like trying. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty rough beginning and maybe it'll get better, but I don't know. I would say for Adidas, just stay with soccer or whatever they're good at.
Yeah, and I don't mind that they're in it. There, but the problem is that there's so many paddles. There's so many companies and so many brands, like tiny brands that
Yeah.
pop up out of nowhere. There's probably, there's only a few different factories in China that even make paddles. So like, how different could it be, right? Like, in other words, in my opinion, if Adidas hired some paddle nerd and said, design us something amazing with Xiaomi and CJ, in 6 months to a year, they should be able to have a paddle that competes. But the brand, but that it's a very saturated market, and we'll see what happens. I mean, it'll be interesting. Nike obviously makes pickleball shoes, like, and I don't know if Under Armour does, but Adidas makes pickleball shoes. I don't know if they're just switching out the tennis branding for pickleball branding, but they
Maybe.
basically. With that said, there's paddle companies that are making shoes now too, so it's definitely a growing market, and there's room to grow, but it is a very saturated area with the paddles. I'll just be interested to see if Nike comes up with some, or some other brand jumps in, like Adidas. Uh,
Now, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you love to buy all the different paddles and try them out. You actually
yeah,
gave me a couple
yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Do you usually go with one brand or do you switch it up a lot and try different ones?
What I again, I'm kind of I spend too much money on paddles, but I do try to be cheap about it. So I'll look for like lightly used ones on eBay, or I can actually demo them at my local pickler. So I played with a few there. But it's weird. I like to try new paddles, but then I if I don't latch onto it right away, I go right back to my Proton Flamingo. So.
Yeah.
Um, I I did pre-order one that's coming in a few weeks, so we'll see about that. But yeah, I do like to play around with other ones, and like if somebody else has a paddle and I could just go, try it out or whatever. But what I end up doing is like trying to get them a little bit cheaper than just straight brand new price, or whatever. And then if I don't love it, I'll just try to like either give it to my friends or sell it for cheap on eBay or something like that. So, but I still probably have 20 paddles lying around.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. Some of them are dirt cheap paddles, right? That are, what not I don't play with. They just sit here and collect dust. But anyway, The ones I
Those are
gave
your
you,
big. Those are your big five sporting goods paddles.
yeah, yeah, the ones I gave you are kind of like I'd say decent middle of the road ones, right? Like
Yeah.
just or I had two of the same brand. One's more of a power paddle, one's more of a control paddle. So I think I like the power one. I gave you the control one. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, I do like it. The problem is there's just so many that come out. Unless we turn this into like a paddle podcast, which there's way too many of those. I mean, these guys are like taking X-rays and cutting them in half and showing you the
Oh
honeycomb on the
gosh.
inside. They are way into it. That's not us.
Wow.
So unless
Nope.
unless somebody wants to start sending me paddles for free to review, we'll just stick with whatever my pocketbook can handle, and I'll just tell you what I think. But yeah, once I get a couple of the new paddles coming out, I'll let you know what I think. But for now,
Nice.
I'm a big Proton fan, and the Proton Flamingo just feels the best to me as of right now. But we'll see with the new one because the one I'm getting is a foam paddle, all foam, which is supposed to be more durable. So we'll see. Okay,
Nice.
now one last thing before we get out of here. This I want to get your opinion on, and this has been going on for a long time. It's kind of the shut up and dribble argument, right? Should athletes speak out on topics other than their sport, right? So, with that
Oh
said, Leah
yes.
Jansen, who is very outspoken on Twitter, she wrote, and I'll quote this: "Note to all PB players: We don't have quote unquote platforms that reach millions like some do, and no, like sorry, some think do there, and no one cares about your political opinions. Can we please just go back to posting highlight reels? I am so uninspired, and we should all stay in our lane." So this is an actual athlete saying "shut up and dink" in this, for lack of a better phrase, right? So what do you think about well, first of all, what do you think about in general politics? And again, we're not going to get into actual politics because that's the last thing I want to do. But what do you think about athletes in general in politics? And then furthermore, pickleball players who are not well known and them speaking out. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. I've never been a big fan of like mixing politics and sports. I know it's like a big platform for people, and obviously most athletes or athletes in certain sports with the bigger sports have pretty large platform to be able to kind of speak their mind and get their words out there. And I think that's okay in some situations, but it does kind of like for me personally, it just kind of drains the fun out of sports. Like
Yes.
the world has too much like politics and CNN and Fox News and what like I don't need that in my sports. So I like to keep the two separate as much as I can. But with pickleball, that's interesting too because you mentioned they maybe, and she also mentioned this, they don't have like maybe the platform that a LeBron James has or a Aaron Judge or whatever. And so I guess
It's a weird argument
I
though, right? It's a weird argument. Like just because a pickleball player doesn't have a large platform, does that matter? Like it's weird that because she's kind of insinuating that if you do get a large platform, you can have an opinion. I know she
yeah
probably didn't mean it that way, but that's the way it comes. I mean, that's technically how it reads. Like we don't have
yeah.
platforms that reach millions like some think we do. So like,
And it was interesting to hear that from a player too, because
yeah,
usually it's the reverse. It's usually
yeah,
the fans that are saying, shut up and dribble or whatever,
yeah,
because
exactly.
the players are saying too much in their opinion, right? But
Yeah,
then this
exactly.
this time it was the player doing that and just kind of saying we should stop doing this.
Yeah, so I agree with you wholeheartedly on like I don't want it to drain the fun is actually a great way to put it, right? Like I just again, and it's not that they can't be intelligent that I will say this, some athletes aren't super intelligent and political opinions
Do your
or other
research.
or otherwise, but even if you're not talking politics, they might not be the most intelligent source for data or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Regardless. With that said, even if I agreed with their opinion, I don't necessarily want to hear it from them, right? Like and again, everyone can have an opinion, right? You know what they say about opinions, right? Everybody has one. Well, not everyone
Yeah.
should put it on Twitter. So that's my
Oh, there you
opinion.
go.
I don't think they need to like necessarily stick to something. And if something, I don't mind if something, I don't care if they do, but I probably prefer that they don't. Does that make sense? But I do think it's interesting that a player is
Right.
saying that rather than a fan, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, they can all do whatever they want and freedom of speech. But for me, like personally, it just when politics just get into sports, I'm just like, all right,
I will
this
say this
is
though, if you're a pickleball player, you're kind of representing yourself. Like if you played for the Yankees, to some degree, what you say can reflect on that team. And this is
yeah.
more of an individual sport, right? So if you're a tennis player, let's say you're a tennis player from Slovenia and something happens in Slovenia, you might have something to say about it, and you know way more about Slovenia than I do, right? Like, okay, fine, or whatever. And again, I don't really care that much if they do talk about it. I just agree with you, and you said it perfectly. It drains the fun out of sports, and sports are kind of an escape. I don't want them to be.
Yeah,
I
an
don't.
escape, exactly.
I don't want them to be plastered with politics personally. So anyway, with all that said, I don't even mean for us to get into politics or talking about this. I just thought it was kind of interesting coming from a player. Now, with that said, she's probably one of the most opinionated people on Twitter. The thing that's really funny is she'll get mad at fans like me and you for like critiquing somebody's play, like, oh, they should have hit at this, and why are they hitting a dink when they should have done this? And she'll say like, why is a 3.0 player telling a pro how to play, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, we do have eyeballs, right? Like I
Yeah,
might have, I can't throw a fastball, right? Like Hunter Pence, but I do know that he probably shouldn't have beanballed the pitcher or beanballed that batter, right? Like
yeah,
there are things that anyway, so it's kind of funny for her to say because she's really outspoken and she gets really mad if any non 5-0 player critiques pickleball players. So kind of funny. I do like her a lot.
interesting.
Actually
Yeah,
she is probably my favorite commentator. Whenever they put her on as like the color commentator, she's excellent at that, and she does have great opinions. I just think it's kind of unfair to say just because someone doesn't play at a certain level that they can't have an opinion about somebody's play or decision making. Because there's a lot of times when you're like, oh, Aaron Rodgers probably shouldn't have thrown that pass into two deep safeties, with blah blah blah. Does that make sense? Like if
yeah, because
you know
yeah,
something
because
well
you're
enough,
yeah, you're watching the game too, and like, yes, I'm not a pro quarterback, but I can read the passing lanes a little bit and be like, oh, that's not gonna do it, man. Like,
right?
yeah,
Exactly, exactly. So anyway, all right. Well, enough of that. Enjoy watching the PPA Asia in Vietnam this week. Again, I'll start tomorrow, right when you hear this podcast. Thanks for coming on, Spencer. Appreciate it.
yep,
I wonder. We did take a week off because it was just the paddle. There was nothing happening the weekend before. I'm wondering if we should do that this week. I don't know. Tell us in the comments if you guys want to hear when we are just doing a preview or if you prefer reviews or whatever. Let us know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Appreciate everyone that listens to the podcast, watches us on YouTube. Thanks to Deja Vega for the excellent music. If you happen to be in England around December, they're doing a couple of awesome shows. That would be pretty wild if somebody's listening to this in England and can go to a Deja Vega concert in Manchester area. All right. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time on the Poachers Pickleball Podcast.